So this was 2020, midst of the pandemic, the last year of the first Trump administration. In the US, journalists were going after Trump in a way that they had not gone after most presidents before. Their attitude toward Trump would have been more legitimate if they had applied it to power across the board, instead of only a president who broke the norm of civility. And that is not to downplay any of the violence of the first or current Trump administration, but just to say that there's a selectivity in journalists feeling like they needed to hold something to account. And I would argue, having been working in the US during the first Trump administration, that the logic had a lot to do with his performative civility, or his lack of performative civility that other presidents prior had had. Anyway, during this time, US news outlets were covering the conviction of Ressa and her colleagues. And here's what NPR's Rachel Martin had to say when she interviewed Maria Ressa about that.
In the U.S., it's easier to speak out against the government, and no one's going to throw you in jail at this point for violating a quarantine. But can you talk a little bit more about how you have seen the parallels emerge?
Martin's question had baked in assumptions about the U.S. even 4 years into a Trump administration. The idea was that the U.S. was still better for speech, for journalists, for liberty. Ressa pushed back gently, saying this.
Journalist equals criminal, which is the alternate reality. This is how you transform a democracy. The same thing is happening in the United States.
To me, there's a clear difference between the question and the answer. Ressa, for example, is not pointing to Trump specifically. Martin didn't use the name Trump in her question, but it is implied that there is a difference that is happening right then. Ressa, in contrast, is not responding by talking about Trump, but rather talking about the systemic manipulation of free speech and lack thereof and power to stifle journalistic freedom. Maria Ressa's answer was more focused on how power functions and how it interacts with us as journalists. In a battle for truth, journalism is activism.